probably one of the most difficult parts of being a dispatcher is you wish you were there. You sometimes wish you could just hop in your car and head over to the call you're taking.
That was Chandra Crosby back in September 2019 talking to ABC4 News about some of her most difficult moments as a dispatcher for Summit County Sheriff's Office. Welcome to our In Focus discussion on honoring Utah's 911 dispatchers. The second week of April is National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Tonight, we recognize the people who are the first to pick up that call when someone is in need. These faceless heroes often provide strength, direction, and life-saving instructions for those on the other end. Joining us tonight for a live panel discussion is Chelsea Gibson, lead dispatcher for the Summit County Sheriff's Office, Joe Fayola, Communications Center Manager for the Utah Department of Public Safety, and Don Shumway, lead dispatcher for Davis County. Great to have all three of you on the show tonight. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very important conversation, and I'm glad that you all have your time to be honored in the month of April. Chelsea, let's start with you. What led you to becoming a dispatcher with the Summit County Sheriff's Office, and how long have you been in the profession?
Hi, I've been in Summit County Sheriff's Office for about a little over 2 years. I was actually about to take another job when I got the call to do a sit-along, and when I did the sit-along, I just fell in love with who I was working with, the just atmosphere of the calls, and being able to help people.
And you said you've been there for how long now?
A little over 2 years.
A little over 2 years, okay. Joe, what about you? Tell us about what led you to working as a dispatcher. You, of course, with the Utah Department of Public Safety, and how long have you been there?
That's a great question. I think for me, I've actually spent most of my career up in Weber County, and just recently, within the last year, moved down and joined the state with the Utah Department of Public Safety. For me, I used to work in the world of finance and actually found myself laid off and looking for a job, and my dad actually saw an ad in the newspaper and said, hey, you might be a good fit for this, you should apply. And I tried it out, and the rest is history. I couldn't get rid of it.
That's fantastic. Quite a transition from finance to dispatch.
Absolutely, and now we're going on 15 years and still going strong.
All right, that's awesome. All right, Don, let's bring you in. I understand that you were actually inspired by your mom, who was a dispatcher for Weber County. Tell us a little bit about your background and how long you've been doing this.
Yeah, my mom, she was a dispatcher, and I just, as a kid, I loved going and visiting her centers. I loved, you know, everything about it. I just loved the family type environment, the friendships, and that type of feeling that they had as coworkers together. So it just started a seed as a kid that that's something that I wanted to do when I grew up. And sure enough, when I was 18, I applied, and I've been dispatching for 16 years now. And I did some time up with Logan Dispatch, and I've been also with Layton, and now here I am with Davis County since October.
Yeah, and I believe my colleague Rick Aaron actually highlighted you in one of his Behind the Badge reports.
Yeah.
You look familiar, and the video all is familiar on that story as well. So yeah, you were caught the bug at a very early age, and it just kind of went from there.
Yeah, I mean, I also liked that she had soda at her work. But,
oh,
you know,
gotcha.
And I'm lucky that there's so many soda shops close by, so I feel like I'm living the dream.
Stop in on the way to work. Okay,
Yeah.
Joe, let's talk about training and certification. What goes into becoming a dispatcher? You mentioned for you it was a complete career shift. Can that be the same for others?
Absolutely. I think coming in off the street, there is a lot of training and certification that has to take place. And at a bare minimum, the dispatchers in the state of Utah, they're going through a rigorous training of several weeks, if not months or more. And that's just on the job aspect. There are certifications such as CPR or an emergency medical dispatcher certification. That certification will enable a dispatcher, if they have a cooperative caller, to essentially turn that person into an EMT to provide EMT level care on the scene. In addition to that, there's plenty of federal certifications, FEMA and NIMS type certifications that we obtain, along with everything else. And so I think it would be fair to say that for most new dispatchers, it's probably at least a year until they really start feeling comfortable on the job.
Okay, let's get into your favorite part of the job. I'd like to hear from all three of you on that. What is it that keeps you coming back every day? Chelsea.
I love being able to help people, even sometimes when they don't want our help. They'll still call us, and we're always there to answer the call, always there to help them. Even in their worst days, we're there to just help them.
So when you say someone may not want your help, what do you mean by that?
So I had a call recently where it was more of a medical call, and she was very hesitant to give me any information and tried not to have me send help. And it turned out that her husband had beat her. And so just sometimes people call just to talk and not get help.
And that was probably something she really needed that
Yeah,
night.
no, she definitely got the help that she needed.
Okay. Dawn, what keeps you coming back?
You know, I find it really rewarding, honestly. So being able, some people ask me, they're like, hey, doesn't it bother you to take calls because of my history, or, you know, where I had lost my mom and sister to domestic violence? But it actually is pretty healing. I enjoy being able to help other people in that same capacity. So for me, I have that personal side story with it, but also just on everyday calls. This just recently, our agency, we delivered a baby from start to finish, you know, from it starting to crown and come out to all the way to the baby's first cry. And it was just really a team rewarding moment to hear that baby.
I can definitely imagine that. Joe?
I think, you know, for me, I think that it has to go kind of with what Dawn said. It's a rewarding type of feeling that we get, and there's nothing quite like when we take a call from someone who is either lost or afraid. Maybe they don't know where they are, and they start to give us these landmarks, you know, that they're by the Red Barn or by whatever this business is, and they don't know where they are, but we can ask a question like, well, turn to the left. Do you see a 7-Eleven? And when they say yes, you can tell them with confidence, you can say, I know exactly where you are. And that feeling and that sense of relief that comes over the phone is priceless.
Yeah, I would imagine. All right, hold tight, because we are going to be right back after this quick commercial break. When we come back, we will resume our In Focus conversation on honoring Utah's 911 dispatchers. Stay with us.
And they're feeling all of that emotion over the phone, but many times what happens with our dispatchers is they never get the closure.
That was Sheriff Kelly Sparks with the Davis County Sheriff's Office back in November 2019, talking about the stressful situations that Utah's 911 dispatchers deal with and how they often don't know the outcome of the calls that they answer. Thanks so much for staying with us for our In Focus discussion tonight honoring Utah's 911 dispatchers. Before the break, we're joined by Chelsea Gibson, Joe Fayola, and Don Shumway. And we pick up right where we left off. Chelsea and Joe, let's get your thoughts on this first question. You're the first person that a caller talks to when they're in an emergency. These are very stressful times, and time is of the essence. So how do you stay calm during these situations like this? Chelsea?
Well, in my perspective, I usually have to take a deep breath before I dispatch the call out. That way my voice is keeping that calm voice for the officers. And if my voice is calm, then the caller will eventually calm down as well. And once I get the caller to calm down, then it's a lot easier to get more information from them.
Joe, when people are calling, it's not their best time in life. What's it like being on the other end for you?
Absolutely. I mean, these are people calling on the worst days of their lives. And for us, I think for me anyway, personally, the biggest thing is to just kind of focus on the moment. I think you have plenty of time before and after to kind of decompress or sort through the emotions you may be feeling. But in that moment, when you're on the phone, it's all action and it's all decision making. And you just focus on the mission at hand, get them the help that they need, and then you can process all that afterwards.
Don, what would you say is the most difficult part of the job for you?
You know, for me, part of it is not knowing the end of the story. I just wish, you know, there's callers that we've helped, and after they're transported to the hospital, we just never know if they end up making it or not. But I mean, if for the public out there listening, just know that we are still rooting for people that we maybe have taken calls for years ago.
Chelsea, what is the most difficult part of the job for you?
No, like Don said, it can be hard not knowing what happens in the end. We also do 12-hour shifts, and a lot of the times we don't get to see our family very often, or we have to work holidays and weekends, and sometimes it gets a little hard.
Yeah. Joe, we heard the sheriff at the top of this segment talk about the mental and emotional toll that this job can take. How do you deal with that, and what are some of the resources out there to help those of you working in the industry through tough times like that?
That's a fantastic question, and I think of a story that comes to mind. We don't always realize, even ourselves, the impact that this can have on us. And many years ago, on an early morning, there was an incident involving a family that was having a party, and at a certain point, one of the family members got into a car to go get something, and as they backed down the driveway, they inadvertently struck one of their own family members. And it was a really horrific thing. It was a small child, and at the time, I was single, no kids. Didn't really, I was shaken by this, but it wasn't that big of a deal, so to speak, because I didn't have the kids in the family. Years later, when I had my own son and we were outside, there came a day when he just kind of walked across the driveway in a certain way. He wasn't in any danger, there was no vehicles nearby, but in that moment, all of that emotion and everything kind of came back to me, just being able to relate once again to what had happened all that time ago. And so I am very glad to say that we are seeing a shift in the profession where more and more agencies are recognizing the need for the mental health support, and you see agencies developing peer support programs and paying extra money to be able to have professional counseling brought in, and various other factors. So it is a good thing. I still think there's work to be done, but it's definitely in the right direction, and we're finally getting somewhere that we need to be going.
Donna, I mentioned the story that we featured you on, and your story is shocking. Having gone through that, you alluded to it, you've lost a mother and a sister to domestic violence. Having gone through that, does that help you relate to people who are on the other end of the call?
Oh, absolutely. For me, it's not something that was in the past that I just had to deal with once. It's something that I continuously have to deal with. For instance, my father, who was the one who committed these crimes, he was just released from prison within this last year. So, when other people call in and they're frustrated or they're going through something, they're talking to someone who knows. And, me being able to understand their emotions, I think helps give me an edge too.
That still has to kind of take a toll on you at the end of the day as well. How do you manage that?
Yeah, well, definitely. Sometimes it is hard. You go to work every day and you take call after call of people needing help. And then you go home and you have your own problems that you're dealing with. It's not like we have everything all fixed in our own lives. And so it's important to build a network of resources and to reach out when you need and to make sure that you do something for yourself each and every day. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Okay, stay with us. We're going to take another quick commercial break, but when we come back, we will resume our In Focus conversation on honoring Utah's 911 dispatchers.
I'm trying to make sure that my responders are safe. I'm trying to listen to the other dispatchers in the room. There's a lot of things going on, and the stress of that can weigh down on a person.
That was Ashton Olson back in November 2019 talking to ABC4 News about his personal experience as a dispatcher for the Davis County Sheriff's Office and how stressful the job can be. Welcome to our third and final In Focus discussion tonight, honoring Utah's 911 dispatchers. Before the break, we were joined by Chelsea Gibson, Joe Fayola, and Don Shumway, and we pick right up where we left off. We already got into this a little bit, but I want to focus some more on the positive of your job. So we got into favorite moments and most rewarding, but let's talk a little bit more about some of the stories that y'all can share. I believe, Don, that you talked about helping to deliver a baby. Any other stories you can share with us that are uplifting and rewarding from the work that you do?
Yeah, sometimes we'll have stuff that, like can on the outside look traumatic, but being able to be there for someone and, it's a real tender moment. I just recently had a suicidal caller, first party caller, and his location was changing. He went all the way, from one part of the state to another, and solving that puzzle of his location, but while talking to him in that moment, it's something I'll never forget. Sharing that piece with him and that he chose to stay, it was honestly inspirational to me. Mm-hmm. So it was really rewarding. And
you do more suicide prevention work we'll get into in just a minute, but first, Chelsea, yes. A rewarding story from the job.
Yeah, absolutely. Recently I had one where this girl calls in on 911 just asking for help. She wanted to kill herself. and she was driving on the freeway. So I had her try to pull over, get into a safe area, and we got resources going to her, and I just had to talk her through basically not killing herself. And it only took the officers to get to her about 5 minutes. And after that, we were able to give her the correct resources, and she was able to actually get the help that she needed, and it was very rewarding.
Yeah, that is awesome. Joe?
You know, I have a story about a baby and everything, but I think I'll go a different direction. I've got an experience with a coworker of mine where we received a phone call from one of the companies that uses the tracking devices that go in for bank robberies and things like that. And somebody had robbed a bank, and we had an active tracking device, and I was on the phone with this company while we're getting the live updates, and I was sitting right next to my coworker who was giving the live updates over the radio. And that vehicle went all over town, up, down, back and forth, changed speeds. At one point, you know, flipped the other direction and went the wrong way down the road. And through everything, we stayed right on top of it until they actually were able to stop that vehicle and apprehend them. And that was just a great kind of start to finish success story.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Dawn, you're giving back to the community in another way as well. We talked about this just a second ago, but can you tell us a little bit more about these Zero Suicide kits that you've been making and how they help people in mental distress, like the ones who we just heard about that can call into 911?
Yeah, so sometimes we encounter a lot of people who maybe not qualify or need to go to necessarily the hospital, but are still feeling blue or down, or may need these resources on another day. So it's nice that if these officers, they have these kits readily available in their cars so that they can hand them out as they encounter people who may be hitting a rough spot in their life. So.
All right. Want to get on to some legislation elements now. Joe, this year Congress introducing a bill that would actually change the job classification for 911 dispatchers nationwide from protective service occupations instead of office and administrative support occupations. So essentially putting dispatchers under public safety instead of the same category as a receptionist. Why is that important?
I think to answer your question, we've got to identify what is the difference between a dispatcher and a receptionist. And I think we've touched on some of it, but certainly identifying the different hats that dispatchers wear. I mean, we have to be law experts, we have to be medical professionals, we have to be counselors and very experienced communicators. We have to be fire experts in certain situations. And in all of these things, you know, we're expected to be at the top of our game and be as knowledgeable as our counterparts that are out in the field. And so I think that by grouping us in together with them, it's really just recognizing that we are part of that total system of support, and we are just an extension of our responders in the field.
Okay, we have about a minute left. We'd just like any final words, anything else you would like our viewers to know that we haven't touched base on yet. Chelsea.
Yeah, dispatching it could be hard, it could be stressful, it takes a toll on you, and it definitely takes a certain kind of person to do it. But in the end, it's very rewarding, and the positives definitely outweigh the negatives on it.
All right, Joe.
I think for me, just a message to everybody, you know, when you call 911, the dispatchers have a job to do, and we're asking questions in a certain order for a certain reason. So please be patient and just listen to what the instructions are giving you and answer the questions.
All right, Dawn, we will leave the final word for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that's unique about 911 that the public doesn't know. And so if you guys do want to follow more information, every week with my agency with Davis County on our Facebook page, we do the 411 on 911. So if you guys want to plug in every Wednesday, check for those updates, you'll be able to get more insight on 911 and what we do.
The 411 on 911, very catchy. All right, you've been hearing from Chelsea Gibson, lead dispatcher for the Summit County Sheriff's Office, Joe Fayola, Communications Center Manager for the Utah Department of Public Safety, and Don Shumway, lead dispatcher for Davis County. We do want to thank you for everything you do. We appreciate all of you coming on the show and sharing your experiences with us tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.